This conference will now be recorded.
So let's understand the difference between the last period result and the previous result and the retro indicators once again, okay, in this session. So this is result, pay period result. Okay, this is a retro indicator or result indicator, retro or original, and the result indicator, and the previous result and the last result. Okay, and you're going to tell me. I'm going to give you the example, and you're going to tell me these four columns. So in January the payroll is run. Okay, and then February in February also payroll is run. Never say it's a Jan result or February result. Okay, so for a discussing purpose it is okay, but technically in the system you should say Jan in Jan, February in February. You need to refer for period as well as the in period. Okay, both. It's not just January payroll because it's not just January result because January can have a multiple results. Okay, January can have multiple results. How a January period can have multiple results in the system? Anyone? Hmm? How January can have multiple results in the system? See, assume I have made some changes in January again before I run for March. What will happen? Hmm? Will it go for retro? Will it go for retro or not? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Guys,
sir.
tell me. What is the result here now? If I enter some allowance in 15 with the date January, what will be the payroll result here? Which period here is executed?
January.
Hmm? Yeah. So it'll January will be executed again. Okay, January will be executed again. Okay, February will be executed again. March will be executed again. So if you look at the result indicator, when I run January payroll, it is A and it is A. But when I run, this is February, sorry, not January. Okay, so when I run March payroll, okay, January is rerun. What will happen to this indicators here? January will be, what is the result indicator? Don't you remember the result indicators?
P, sir.
So January and March is P. Is the January and March P or A?
A, sir. Jan in March is A.
Then this becomes
P.
here. And I run April payroll. Okay, April in April. This is A. Now in the month of May, what we have done is we increased the basic salary for the employee effective from January, what will happen? Hmm? The payroll will go for retro right from January if I enter the salary increment with the date effective from January in InfoType 8. Will it go for retro or not?
Retro.
So tell me the period here. Sleeping it seems. This becomes A, this becomes P, this becomes O. Okay. Similarly, Feb in May, March in May. Okay. April in May, May in May. So this is A. Then this becomes P. Then this becomes O. Okay. This is A. Then this becomes
P.
okay. This is April for period result. This is previous result. Okay. This is a similarly. If you write it in June again, in June, I have gone for retro recalculation right from January. So Jan in June, Feb in June, okay, March in June, April in June, May in June, June in June. So this becomes what? A. This becomes
A,
T.
P,
This becomes O.
O.
Okay, A. This becomes previous result. This becomes old result. Okay, this is A result. This is previous result. This is old result. Okay, A result, P result. This becomes O. Okay, A result, P result. This is A. Now, what is original? What is retro? You tell me. Is it a retro run or original run for January?
Jan in Jan is original.
Hmm.
Original.
Next.
Retro. Retro. Original.
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 Retro. Main May is original. All are retro, sir.
Original.
So similarly here. Now this is important. This is what we wanted to discuss now. What is the previous result? Assume this employee is there in the company for the last year or so. Okay. So what is the previous result here?
December and
December.
December.
Is that a previous result or last result?
Last
Hmm?
result. Last
I'm
result.
asking about the previous result. Tell me, what is the previous result? In which case the previous result is imported? In which case the previous result is imported?
Or retro?
Retro. Is it a retro run?
No
No.
previous result, sir. No previous result.
No result. Okay. What about February?
No previous results.
What about January and March?
Jan in Jan?
Hmm. Next.
Feb in Feb?
Next.
No. No previous result.
No previous result. Next.
No previous result.
Next.
Jan in
Jan in
March.
Jan.
So here January. Next.
Feb in Feb.
Feb in Feb or Feb in March? Hmm?
Feb
Feb
in
in
March.
Feb in
March.
Feb.
In March.
Sorry.
Next.
March in March.
Okay. Next.
April in April.
Okay. Next.
No
No.
results.
Now here.
Jan in May. Feb in May. March in May. April in April. Sorry, April in May. And May in May.
Yes.
And no result.
No previous. No result.
Tell me the last result.
Yeah, December. December in Jan.
December in Jan.
December in December.
Sorry, December in December.
Next.
Jan in Jan.
And here.
December in December. Here Jan in March.
Right. Next.
Feb in Feb. Sorry, Feb in March. Here March in March. Here Jan in March.
Last result.
Oh, sorry, December in December.
This is always December and December. Now tell me here.
Jan in March.
And March or May?
Here is March.
May.
Sorry, Jan in May. Yes. Last result is May. Okay.
Next.
Feb in May.
Next.
April in May.
Last result, March and May here, right? Because you are in April, right?
Yes, yes.
April is, so this is April in May.
May.
Again here,
Jan in June.
mhm.
Feb in June. March in June. April in June. And May in June.
Perfect. So if you notice, if it's the original run of the period, we do not have a previous result, but we always have a last results. Okay, let's understand both the cases. In which case previous result scenarios are required, in which case last result scenarios are required. Okay, tell me which case previous results are required. Hmm? Whenever there are retro scenarios, retro calculations or retro difference calculations, then we always need to import the previous result. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For example, take an example. January in March, I'm running the payroll for the January in March. Okay. This is what at the time this is a current result, right? But January, some amount I have already paid. Okay. So the current result is 11,000, for example, net salary. I need to calculate the retro difference. Okay. To calculate the retro difference, don't we need to import January in January? Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? When was the last time
Yes, sir.
January paid? January in January. So earlier, January in January, I paid 10,000. Okay. Now, what is the difference amount that I need to pay to the employee? DT table?
1,000. 1,000.
1,000. Okay. It can be a payment, it can be a deduction. For example, I have applied a 3 days unpaid leave retrospectively in the month of May. Before I run payroll for the month of March, I have gone to January and I have updated unpaid leave. Because of that, my net pay is 9,000. But what actually paid January in January? 10,000 is paid. So my DT table would be, hmm? DT table would be what? How much? Minus 1,000. So in the retro calculation scenarios, we always need to import the previous result. Okay. So in the current runs, so we need to know how to import the previous result. That is a syntax we should learn. Okay. So do we have a previous results in our original runs? Do we have to do this in the original run? If it is the original run of May, okay, do we have to do this? Hmm? Tell me, guys, do we have to do this in while running the payroll for June in June? Do we have to do this difference
No, sir.
calculation?
No, sir.
No.
So if it is the original run of the period, you don't have to do this. But when that period becomes a retro, you have to do this. Okay. So current period result anyway it is there in IT table. See, when I go to the payroll run and January and March is executed, all the wage steps are imported to IT table. Previous results how to import the previous result into current period, current result, which means we need to learn how to import January result into January and March. Okay, this is the question we need to think. So this is a scenario where the previous results are used. Okay, now scenarios where the last result is used. Can anyone tell me? Hmm? Anyone example? In which case the last result need to be some waste type information from the last payroll result is required into the current payroll run. What to do? Hmm? Example. See, we have hired an employee in January, but I have not created bank details. Okay, I have not created bank details. When info type 9 does not exist, but we process the payroll run for that employee, what will happen? Info type
We
9
didn't
bank
pay
details
for that.
not created. Okay, but we process the payroll run for that employee. Info type 7, 8 exist, all other mandatory info types exist. What will happen in this case? What do you expect the
Salary not
system?
processed, sir.
Hmm? Salary is not processed
Salary not
means
processed.
not
Means
processed means
bank details not updated.
BT, bank transfer table not updated. Means no bank file generated, no checks are printed. Then what are we going to do with that salary? Hmm?
We can pay
It
for
is
Set
that
it,
carry
employee
forward to
during next
next
month.
month.
carry forward to the
Yes.
next month. So that means when I'm running a payroll for the February in February, okay, now I need to read January result in this example. In January RT table, I have a net pay, okay, net pay. So let's write it as a net pay, untransferred net pay. Net pay exists, which is 10,000. Okay, now I'm running the payroll for the February. So what we have to do is, in this case, we always import last payroll result and see any waste type that is to be imported and settled in current period. So that means we read the becomes January RT becomes ORT of the February. So in this ORT, there are a lot of number of waste types. I don't need all the waste types. Just need to see, is there any untransferred amount, untransferred net pay exist? Is there any untransferred net pay exist? Okay, then settle it, pass it to LRT. Okay, so there is a table. I'll explain these tables. Now, once it is moved to LRT, then somewhere once current period net is calculated, add LRT net pay to IT table net pay. What is IT table net pay?
20,000.
IT table net pay, not the amount. What is the meaning of IT table? IT means always current period or current run. So LRT net pay is the last result. IT net pay is the current result. So 10,000 here and plus 10,000 here, it becomes 20,000. And then see if the bank details are created. If the bank details are created, settle 20,000 to the employee. Okay, in the current run. This is a one scenario where we use this. The second scenario, for example, employee basic salary or employee has taken unpaid leave. Okay, when unpaid leave is taken, the salary is reduced for the active days only. So he takes unpaid leave. Because of that, the net pay is only 5,000 for this month. But I have a deduction 7,000. Okay, deduction 7,000. So the available gross is 5,000. The deduction is 7,000. So in this case, net pay will be what?
minus
How
2000.
much? Minus 2,000. Can we transfer to the bank?
No.
So what should we do? How do we recover it? We can't transfer this negative amount to the bank and then recover it from the bank, right? What to do?
We can deduct it from next month's salary.
So we can deduct from the next month's salary. What we do is in January, the net pay will be 0. But we additionally generate, there is some payment, some wage type called claim, 2,000. Now in the next month, Feb, what do we do? Okay, what do we do? Import last payroll result. Always import last payroll result and check if any claim, okay, is to be imported and recovered in the current period. So in this month, the net pay, IT table net pay, IT is how much? 10,000 net pay. LRT claim is how much?
2000.
2,000. It is adjusted here. So the current period net pay would be 8,000.
8.
So this is another case where we need to import LRT table. There is another case, third case, import previous month cumulative results table to current month cumulative result table. It is required. Cumulative results means accumulation, right? So whatever the amount paid until the last period has to be added into the current period. That's what is accumulation. So we will discuss what is CRT. We are not discussed that. Okay, these tables much, we will discuss them in the next sessions. But do you understand the difference between a previous result and the last period results here, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now the syntax to import the last payroll result, previous result first. So as we discussed, it is always imported in the retro. So the condition should be if retro and if, then only import the previous result. Okay, definitely January and March, is it a retro or original?
Retro.
Retro. So this condition is true. So then it gets into the loop. The control goes to the loop. In the loop, okay, we have in the if loop, we have loop beginning. Then there is an indicator called RC. RC means loop into previous result. Loop into previous result. Okay. So whenever there is a loop beginning, there has to be loop end. Loop into the previous result of current retro period. Loop into the previous result of current retro period. Once we loop into the current period, retro period, then IMPRT, import O. What it does is import previous results, import the previous results into import the previous results tables into data into O tables. Okay, into O tables. Yeah. So that means example RT of previous result is imported to ORT. Okay. Variable information, for example, it is imported to old variable information. Okay. Clear? So that's what it does. This is the syntax. Now, if you want to read any waste type from the previous result, you just have to process ORT. For example, it is processing this function processing ORT as an input table for the PCR. Okay. So you can read any waste type from the past payroll result into this PCR. Once it is reading into the PCR, then we can pass it to any other output tables. So this is a syntax to read the previous result. Now let me show you example practically. What is this? Okay, let me fix it first. Yesterday session there were some custom PCRs written just to show you custom accumulations. I'm deactivating them. Where did I write? Basic data dummy is already deactivated. Okay, accumulations. You remember we created accumulations yesterday, 190 and 190. Okay, so I'm removing the tick marks. We created a custom accumulation waste types, right? And we added our basic salary into the custom accumulation waste type. So this custom accumulation waste types, their specifications need to be corrected actually, not corrected them. Now, is it a retro or original? Is it a retro or original?
Original.
Original, sir.
Original. Does it have a previous result?
No.
No.
So if you go to this, if R retro, the condition is failed because it's not a retro. So it's not getting into the if loop. Okay. Now I'm going to run this for the second period, effective from first period. Okay, effective from first period. Now, if loop is executed here or not? Yes or no, guys?
Yes, it should.
Okay. If retro, then get into the loop. Condition is true. But do we have a previous result? Why is it not getting into the loop here? Because there are no previous result for this employee. Okay, that's the reason. For this January, we did not make a live run. So to show you, I'll make the live run for January first. And then here, see, it goes to it goes to condition true. Now it is getting into the loop. So previously for in January, I have not made a live run. That's why results are not available. But now January results are available. Okay. So we are running January in Feb. It is a retro. So it goes to the previous result. Loop beginning RC means previous result, import O. So if you go to import O, what is it importing? You see, for period January in 21, January in January, for period in period. January in January is imported to O tables. So this is what I have written, right? Okay, Jan in Feb I'm not executing, Jan in March. Is it importing January in January? Because it's a
Right.
first term retro. So January and January result imported. Imported to where? Import result to O tables. Import the result to O tables. So if you want to look at O table result, print ORT. I have just given a function here. Print ORT and you look at it. Which result this is? Which result this is? Hmm? Anyone? Which result this is? Which period result this is? Tell me for period and in period both. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Guys, can you hear me or not? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Now why are you not answering? Don't you know it? You just answered everything. Which result is here? Is imported into O tables. I have shown you by expanding this import function also just now.
Ja-
This is the result of January in January, right? January in January. So January's previous result this is. See, when you expand it, what is it saying? For period January, in period January. So the result of January in January is imported into O tables. Okay, here. Now, is this piece schema executed here or not? Get a previous result of the period for the V0. We'll discuss what is V0. But now condition is executed or not. If condition. Will it go into the if loop or not? In case of Feb and Feb. Hmm?
No, sir.
Why? Why doesn't it go? Tell me. Answer is correct.
Yeah,
Won't
no
go into,
retro.
because it's not a retro period.
We,
It won't go into the if loop here. But this one is what? It is a retro. It will go into the loop. And then we have January in January result, import it. And then import O means January in January result is imported into O tables. Once it is available in O tables, then you can process them here. We use the PCRs and we use the function. For example, this function, what this PITAB is doing, it takes old variable information into current variable information table, latest variable information table, because they do not want to change the variable information they don't want to change, they don't want to use the latest variable information. The solution wants to use the previous variable information here. So they're importing old variable information to the current variable information. So forget about this. Okay, what is variable information? So using this syntax, can I import the previous result of January into the current period or not? Yes or no, guys? I can read basic pay. I can read previous period, previous net salary, anything. So if I write a PCR, if I write a PCR like this, import A01, okay, add to L, not L, so add to some variable information. Let's say I want to add into variable, okay. Then I'm inserting this PCR in this syntax. If retro, LP, BEG, see, LPEND, okay, and if, and import O. So import O, table is available. Now PORT, okay, this is a PCR I've written here. Now PORT, jet PCR, because I'm using a star into is NYAB. Okay, then what is it doing? Tell me, anyone? Add to the variable ZW. That's what we are doing here. Do you understand the syntax? Previously paid basic salary here means what? In this example, in January, how much basic salary paid? You are adding to variable of which result this is? Jan in Feb, period variable. Okay. So let me stop here. So we will discuss the LRT table tomorrow. Now here, so reading a previous result in this example here is done by many schemas, many sub schemas, but here at this stage it is XPR0. In India also XPR0, international also XPR0, in USA UPR0. This is a schema. Reading a last result, it is done by, if you compare three countries, international XLR0, in India also it's the same PCR XLR0, in USA also it is XLR0. Schema is not important, the syntax is important. So how to import the last payroll result is the next thing that we need to check. Okay. So SAP is not doing anything with the waste types here. What SAP is doing is, in this example, in XPR0, there is a function called PITAB. Using this function, you can merge one table data into another table, or we can copy one table data to another table, or we can delete a table. We can do a lot of things here using PITAB function. So what this function does is, old variable information is added to as merged into or added to new variable information. So this variable information contains what? Benefits, loans data, loan types, benefit types, garnishment order type, okay, and custom variable information. And custom variable information. Okay, so variable information is something that we always use the original variable information, not the modified variable information in the latest result. We always import it from the previous result. That is the reason SAP has created this schema here to import old variable information to a new variable information. So unless SAP apply this syntax, they cannot loop into the previous result and import it, right? So that's why SAP has used this schema. Let's look at this case tomorrow. Okay, any questions? You understood this, all of you?
Sir, I have a one question.
Hmm.
Sir,
Tell me.
retro is equal to always A minus B, right, sir? Current period minus
The
previous
retro difference is
period.
calculated using A result minus B result. For your
Yes,
validation in the
and
results, A minus B.
yeah, and retro difference value is always positive.
Why?
Am I right or wrong?
I have given in this example already. In one example, it's a
Yeah,
positive value, in another example, it's a negative value, right?
yeah, okay,
So, for example, I have paid January month salary, and February we realized that there is a data missing for the employee in the month of January, and the data is 10 days unpaid absence.
okay.
So, is it a positive amount to the employer, negative amount to the employee in February?
Negative amount.
A retro can be positive or a negative, it can't be fixed.
Okay, thank you.
It can't be always a positive, it can be either positive or negative. But the formula is A minus P. A result means current result, P means previous result.
Okay,
When you are looking at the results, PC underscore pay result, this is how you need to validate A minus P is the retro difference.
okay.
Okay, see you tomorrow, guys.